Far to the southwest of Hive Primus, as the spider points give way to the great equatorial wastes, the deserts turn to burnt glass and the chemical lakes. Here, in the shadow of the Ashen Barrens, lie the shattered remains of Hive Secundus. Around the Xenos-ravaged hive stretch thousands of miles of fortifications, manned by hundreds of military regiments. This is the Dust Wall. Over its long history, Necromunda has been the subject of planetary invasions, rebel uprisings, and alien incursions. Since coming under the control of the Imperium some 10,000 years ago, the world has, for the most part, remained in human hands. There remains, however, places where the scars of these attacks remain open and festering. One such blight is Hive Secundus. Once, it was known as the second city of Necromunda, a place of architectural and arboreal beauty among the drab, unending horror of its neighbours. Then, in 879.M41, an alien cult rose to power in its underhive before spilling out to take over the upper levels. For over 20 years, war raged throughout Secundus. Paladite enforcers, house gangs and gangers, as well as planetary military regiments, sold their lives to contain the threat. Lord K.L. Helmar prepared for the worst. Work was begun on a massive series of fortifications around Secundus to ensure nothing escaped. Dubbed the Dust Wall, the finest military minds of Necromunda, counselled by agents of the Minotaurium, the Adeptus Terra, and the Adeptus Astartes of the Imperial Fists, devised its construction. When at last the fortification neared completion, the hive was cut off, regiments and gangs fighting in its nightmare domes abandoned, and the whole site cleansed with nuclear fire. 1,000 square miles were blasted from orbit. The hive broke, and its spire fell across the ash wastes. And yet, despite the might of the Imperium unleashed upon it, the alien cult and its monstrosities endured beneath the radioactive wastes. In the century since the fall of Hive Secundus, the Dust Wall has changed. While guardsmen of the Necromundian planetary militia still watch the ash-cloaked horizons beyond their gun pits and trench lines, hundreds of settlements now dot the wastes around them. When a hive falls, even under such perilous circumstances, there are those who see not danger, but rather a rich scavenging ground just waiting to be looted. Towns were built to service the soldiers of the walls, and those travellers came to glimpse the ruins of Secundus through the ashen fog. Some of these settlements are little more than specks on the map, like Banetown. Built in and around the hulls of now destroyed Baneblade tanks, it straddles the wall, each tank now a dust bar, a scrap merchant or a slop house. Others, like the crater, which nestles in a pit left by stray apocalypse missiles, is a teeming settlement home to almost 3,000 souls. The largest by far is Ashgrad, part of a tank refitting and repair complex. Ashgrad was abandoned by the militia not long after the war, when the precious Necromundan armoured divisions were withdrawn and replaced with static fortress battalions. House Orlok and the Guild of Coin were the first to move in, but since then, the clan houses and guilds have all staked a claim. Ashgrad survives off the soldiers who frequent its drinking holes and gambling houses, and the scrappers who venture out into the no-man's land beyond the wall to loot in the shadow of Secundus. In Scavengers Row, gangs and wasters buy and sell all manner of things dug up from the ash deserts, from genuine Xenos skulls to strange literature. They don't usually know what the words mean, but they like the lovely pictures. Meanwhile, in the Busted Skull, an old command bunker, travellers can try Ashgrad's infamous gunshine snakebite, made from real gunpowder and apparently snakes. As long as no one in Ashgrad has ever seen a real snake, gunshine brewers tend to attribute the name to anything vaguely eatable. It even glows in the dark. All in all, Ashgrad is a place for gangs to try their luck in the wastes, to sell their finds, and maybe even live to make the long trek back to civilization. Of course, gangs don't come to Ashgrad just for the gunshine or for the view. The military tolerates gangers and wasters sneaking off into no man's land to loot wrecks and ancient bodies, provided they don't stray too far, bring anything living back with them, or fail to pay their bribes. The military also reserve the right to shoot anyone on the wrong side of the wall, even if it's just for fun. Such ash runs are, of course, only lucrative for a gang up to a point. Years of scavenging have left the area near the wall almost devoid of good loot. For a real score, a gang needs to venture out deeper into the exclusion zone, surrounding the ruined Hive City. Crossing the open wastes by day or night is practically suicide for a man or a woman on foot, regardless of their personal protection. Fortunately for scavengers, thousands of tunnels run under the dust wall, part of the old maglev and underroad network that connected Secundus to the rest of the world. Dome runners, cold traders, muty guides, and ex-military guardsmen will all guide fighters up to these tunnels, for a price. Most of the tunnels were caved in or walled up when Secundus fell, but there do remain pathways out under no man's land. If a gang is willing to risk run-ins with radioactive ash rippers, cannibalistic waster tribes, and Xenos abominations, then they may be able to return with something of real value, plundered from ancient vaults containing the remnants of Secundus's once peerless culture. For the bravest gangs, some tunnels even run all the way to Secundus and offer the chance to loot the fallen spire. Of course, actually entering the ruins of Hive Secundus is something else entirely.